here. Back then, there were no long-term renting platforms. I mean, big long-term renting platforms. Most of the rental offers were on small WordPress-based websites, like living like small islands. You know, and every agent would have their own website, no map, no navigation, nothing. So me and my partner, we decided. Me and my partner decided to build a long-term renting platform in Vietnam. It was bootstrapped. We spent our own money. It was my first software development business, and I was earning money at my job during the daytime and bringing that money in the evening into our small company. And putting my own money on the line learned me, kicked off my entrepreneurial journey and gave me another perspective on developing software which I will be really happy to share with you, especially because it will talk about money and understanding how software earns us money. And as software developers, we don't usually think about it. We just receive a paycheck at the end of the month, and we don't even think how it comes to be and how the money are flowing into the company. Whilst sometimes we are earning salaries that above average, right? We are not earning the same salaries as a bus driver. We are earning like bigger salaries. So how is it possible? You know, like what is the nature of that money that we are earning, and how we can scale that money to make even more and make our companies benefit more from our work. This is the essence of this talk. And I'm really happy that this is a joint meetup between Rails and Elixir communities, because actually the specific part of Rails, the very unique property of Ruby on Rails is that this type of thinking is embedded in Ruby on Rails. If you think about it, you have Basecamp, you have Shopify, you have SoundCloud, you have major unicorns built on Ruby on Rails. And you don't have much unicorns built on Elixir. Even though, in my opinion, Elixir gives more power. So I switched to Elixir 7 years ago, before doing probably almost 7 or 8 years in Ruby on Rails. So it's now, takes equal part of my career. And 7 years after, I don't see no unicorn built with Elixir. Maybe there are some, but they are not very famous. So I hope to gap that bridge and give an insight why, at least one property, why Ruby on Rails creates so many unicorns and shares that essence. So this talk will consist of two sides, social side and technical side, because software development is a social technical activity. It's not just the technical, you don't press a button. We are not pressing buttons in isolation. We do it as a group. We are embedded in the market, and that is a social property. We have to interact with our people, with other people to deliver value for those people. So it all starts with 4 types of money. This is my observation from COVID. Many companies went down during COVID. Many people lost their jobs. I secondhand know a React developer who had to go to work as a food delivery 6 months after he lost the job because he couldn't find another one. And during COVID, people were losing their jobs. At the same time, other companies grew amazingly. It felt like they're almost earning a different type of money. There is a different property to the money they earn. And by looking around, I identified 4 different types of money. This is by no means a complete system, it's just my idea. So we have survival money. Survival money is just enough to survive. Basically, you just live it by a day, and that's all right. You cannot even look into the future. You don't have capacity. You just survive day after day after day. That's survival money. Then, after building up an experience of survival, you can actually observe that you have some kind of a skill that you can apply on your time of your life, right? And that skill can be sold for a market value. You can enter open market competition and say, for example, okay, I worked as a, for example, Elixir developer on a salary, and that salary was small, junior developer, right? And then I, for example, learned, I don't know, Kubernetes. And Kubernetes became a new thing. So I have this market skill or AI that I can put on the market, and people, you know, can compete offering me different salaries. At that point, at that moment, I can start looking into the future because I have access, right? I'm not just surviving. I have some money on top of what I need, and I can plan for the future a little bit. Then, the most interesting money for me, type of money, is a smart money. It's when, okay, I can look in the past, I can look in the future, and now I can actually have capacity to face what is happening right now. Because the magic is in the present moment, is an understanding what we have to do to deliver the impact, right? We cannot just wander in the future and, you know, dream about big things. If we want to, let's say, scale the business, we need to understand present needs of the market. We need to grasp the moment. And lucky draw, I basically don't know the companies that you know, earns lucky money. I know governments or countries, small countries that have oil. It's a lucky draw. You have 10 million population, you found oil, lucky draw. You have, you know, you have that envelope, red envelope. You basically, it's your lucky money. But I don't know many companies who can earn, you know, lucky money. Sometimes it happens, but it's not systematic. So. 4 types of money, and the biggest difference between skill money and smart money is the scaling property. So smart money has super linear returns. Basically, the on-ramp is very similar to the skill money, but with skill money, you need to hire more people to get more income. Whilst with smart money, you can keep a team really small, and you have some kind of an amplification process, where you put an hour of your time or a 10 hour of developer time, and it translates, you know, to hundreds of thousands of hours of the company or productivity time. And the difference is very simple. If your company hire more developers and your number of, let's say, I don't know, let's connect it to the money. If your company hire more developers and the amount of money doesn't, it scale linearly or sublinearly, right? So you had 10 people, you earned 100 mil. You added 11th developer and you started to earn 109 mil. So you earn 9 mil more, but you know it's dropping, and it's dropping because of the coordination cost. So skill money, they flattens out because when you have more people, you need to coordinate those people. You need to speak more meetings, more disruption, more segmented thinking process, Slack messages, emails. That coordination cost kicks in, and it flattens out the curve. So after specific number of people, like your velocity is like not 2 weeks but 2 months, and it's going down and down and down. Whilst with smart money, you hire a new developer, and now you earn not 100 mil but 150. You hire another developer, you earn like 250. That's how it works. And there are a lot of examples of companies like this, from big to small. So the most prominent is Amazon, and that was the genius of Jeff Bezos, who understood the property of internet, of cyberspace, right? That information takes, I don't know, it's like 10 DOM to store 1 byte of information, right? Whilst to store the information in a building takes a lot of money. It's rent, payroll, etc. So he said, okay, we'll take a catalog of books that we sell online and put it on the internet, and it costs us nothing. And then we can compete with brick and mortar, with like just offline bookshops. Because scaling our catalog doesn't cost us as much as it costs for brick and mortar shop. So that was smart money by the way of connecting the property of the cyberspace, like storing, the cost of storing the data, and the fact that other people would have much bigger expenses trying, to build the same catalog. Early Instagram, it was built by, I think, 25 developers until it scaled to millions. Basecamp has 2.5 million customers and a team of 50. Narakit is an exceptional case. So this is a developer who actually figured out how to do business. You can look up his presentation, Gojko Azic. So the guy developed single-handedly a platform who serves 2 million customers per month. Just a single guy. Nomad List. It was one single PHP file on a web server. The guy would log in through the FTP protocol, press F4 in the editor, directly edit thousands of lines long PHP file, save it, copy to the computer as a backup. No GitHub, no version control, no unit tests, no nothing. $70,000 per month. That's smart money. He figured out something in this reality, right? How something in the present moment. He connected the dots in a way that enabled him to earn 70K per month without even sweating. It's just against everything that we are being told about software quality, about software design, and things like that. And actually, it's how software works. Ideally, that's how it should be. Because before software, the only way to achieve super linear scale, there was two major ways. The first is a land grab, as a conquest. So you conquest more land, you have more resources, more men, more money. It's easier to conquer another part of the land. So, for example, China is big. Sorry for politics, and China can grab, try to grab land around China, just because it's easier for them than for countries like Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, etc., because they're smaller. And that was historically the process. You build empire, you expand, you get more minerals, more gold, more knowledge, you expand farther. And the second option was scientific pursuit. The more you learn, the easier to master the next piece of knowledge. So, for example, if I know about MVC, I can use Ruby on Rails, I can use Phoenix, I can use Laravel, and learn those things by building on my previous knowledge. And with advent of the internet, that became available to all of you, to all of us. Now every person can build a business on the internet and achieve super linear scale, just because the distribution costs almost zero. The only limiting factor here is, in my opinion, is conflict between individual interests and group interests. So when it's all good and dandy to talk about super linear scaling, but when we enter the actual workplace that generates revenue, we have political games. There are people who want to be on the spotlight and become more visible because that's how we are getting promoted. And they don't necessarily have to be experts or professionals. They might not be necessarily interested in the craft. They might, dress well, look good, professional, in control, speak good. They may have a good mentor in the company, and that's enough. That's enough to play the game. And then when people who are conscientious, who want to master their craft, who want to deliver more, who are passionate about their work, they're looking at that and saying, no way I'm playing this game. Like, this is not fair, this is rigged. And that's how we have this conflict between individual interests and group interests. We basically struggling to play together, to put our minds together to achieve the same goal. And actually, that desire to climb the social ladder is 2 million old. It's evolutionary mechanism that came up in the mollusks 2 million years ago. So mollusks developed that mechanism to climb the social ladder. And every time any of us gets promoted, we have a hormonal release that makes us feel good. Wow, I'm number one. I'm going to have a beer, party with my friends, and tell my girlfriend and my mom, and tomorrow I will tell my employees how much better I am compared to them. And this is very natural. This is embedded in our nature, because the more we climb up the hierarchy, the biggest the chances for survival. Because if, for example, lower level collapses, we are not on the lower level. So if, for example, there is people will be fired, right? Junior developers are more likely to be fired than middle. Middle developers are more likely to be fired than senior developers. And for example, CTO or VP of engineering is less likely to be fired than a lead developer. So it going against it, balancing this or mediating this individual conflict and conflict between individual interests and group interests requires sophistication. And there are known ways to do it. A historical example is the British Empire, right? When they entered Asia, they was weaker than Portuguese and Dutch empires. They was basically the weakest player in the area. They lost 2 out of 3 major battles to Dutch Empire when they fought for influence in Indo-Asia. And they still eclipsed Netherlands. And they did it by the way of being really smart. It's actually, if you look at the logo of the Royal Borough of Greenwich, so this is a coat of arms of Greenwich. It's a place where the time starts. I guess all of you know that time begins, right? Or we're starting counting time from the 0 meridian in Greenwich, right? So this is the coat of arms of that district where we're starting to count the time. You can see hourglasses across on both sides of the canal, and they have the slogan: "We govern by serving," and that's how they came on top of Dutch and Portuguese, by helping people inside, those new territories to achieve their goals. They were weak. They couldn't fight. They helped basically people to achieve that. And fortunately, a lot of time have passed, and we developed much better ways than a British Empire used it to mitigate that conflict. So this is a model of organizational evolutionary ladder developed by Frederick Laloux, who worked at McKinsey. He was a consultant helping businesses to grow. And over time, he observed that there are 5 steps of the organizational evolution. The first is the red, like red companies. Those are governed by power and fear. North Korea, right? Prime example. Mafia, where basically everything is happening because of power and fear. Then we have traditional governments with public schools, where you have hierarchy, stability, long-term perspective. It's basically, like governments, they can plan 100 years ago, 100 years into the future, because they enjoy this stability. At the same time, they're really struggling with innovation. So then we have what's called a meritocracy, the orange circle. Those are the companies that originated roughly in, they come to the zenith of their existence in mid-20th century. Like General Motors, Ford, those are the most prominent companies originated in America in mid-20th century that was built on meritocracy. It became possible because people, the founders, were not obliged to be responsible for companies with their own wealth. So they can start a company, put like $50 million down, and that if the company goes bankrupt, they don't lose their house. That's just there. And interesting be it about the orange companies. This is most prevalent type of companies right now. And they say, okay, we are a meritocratic company. The more you know, the more skillful you are, the higher you can go. That's basically the typical stories being sold when you're getting a new job. Do your job well, play by the rules, and you will be promoted. But as you know, as any person with more than 6 to 7 years of professional experience knows, it happens very rare because of that conflict of individual and group interests. Because at some point there will be a guy who will game the system, look good, like in control, dress well, talk well, find a good mentor, be able to manipulate reports a little bit. We call it agility with manipulating abstract symbols. So a little agility with numbers, a little agility with words, looks good on paper, got promoted. And then he need to bring people who will, not will make him look stupid. So he will invite people who are also less professional, like won't be a threat for him. And that's how you basically create like a ceiling, a glass ceiling that you cannot, push through. If you're a professional but you are not playing the same game. And this is a very well-known topic and well-researched since 70s. That's why big companies, they're becoming slow, and that's why we hear about disrupting startups. So green circle is not really interesting. It's what's called modern companies. Like, okay, we are not, we're about delighting customers, we have shared values, we have culture over strategy. It's very Nordic, Northern European, Sweden, Denmark, Finland type of business, and it's less adopted. But the most interesting bit is this tilt circle, which is about, it's just not, right now, according to Frederick Laluc's observations, like less than 14% of companies on the market. And the idea, he says, is that, like, imagine a founder acts like he has $1 million on his psychological balance, and he spends it as a drunk guy. So it's acting from the place of abundance, not from the place of scarcity, but from the mindset of abundance. And it enables self-management. It has evolutionary purpose. It has higher purpose. And let me tell you how it translates into the very specific terms, at least according to my understanding. So we have every workplace can be broken down into or analyzed from 4 different perspectives. We have individual resources in every company. Like, do we have, which means does developers have all the necessary information? They know they need to do their work. Do they have access to the information? Because information is the first resource that getting politicized, right? Controlling the information gives a political advantage in the organization. If I hide some information and other guys don't know, I can act on it later, and that's my resource. I don't share it with others. Or just money, does company has money to buy laptops or pay for the GPUs or for whatever? Then we have individual power. That's what every developer likes. It's developing hard skills, learning about refactoring, software design, test-driven development, deployment. Then we have collective power, and it's a very interesting one, and that's something that actually closely related to smart money. Collective power is how we work together. It's strong individual contributors might not necessarily be good players. And there was research from Google, it's called Project Aristotle, where they try to figure out what's the difference between most productive teams and the least productive teams. And again, most productive teams and all other teams. And it was not the number of rockstar and superstar developers. It was how people collaborate. So a team with, like 10 superstar developers would be actually outperformed by a team by just 10 good developers that work together collaboratively. And collective resource is this idea that like sun, shines indiscriminately for everyone and brings people together. It's the reason why they show up. It's, the source of warmth, of feeling nice while doing the thing. And the collective power is, it can be explained as an example. I think I always struggle to explain it to my colleagues in the West because there is a lack of metaphors. There is an English saying about the football team. The team plays like on a string. Like every football player, like they are acting like they're connected by the same string. And in Vietnam, it's really easy to. There is a really good metaphor. It's basically when you are starting from the traffic light on your bike. There is this invisible order. Like we are feeling like a part of the swarm. Every cyclist has their own place. Nobody falls off. There are no accidents. It's not something that we analyze. It's just a feeling, a sensation, like that invisible order that that governs the process. And every organization has that invisible order. It might not be written in stone, but if you observe how things are happening, what people say, what words they use, who is getting promoted, you will be able to see that invisible order, and you will be able to interact with it and influence it, because nothing is set in stone. And actually, in my opinion, my understanding of smart money is that it's the extension of the ability to work together as a team into the market, right? Because not only organizations doesn't exist in isolation; they are part of the market. So the same invisible order governs the market, and if we are united by the shared common idea, and we can act together, and we have skills and resources to do it, at some point we will be able to spot something that is happening right now, not happened in the past, not assumption about the future, but opportunity right now that we can leverage on, focus on, and create a super linear scale. So I think a good example is an application to book sleeping buses. I mean, it's really a no-brainer, right? It's not a super complex application to develop. But somebody notices the opportunity that there is this thing that looks like an Uber. You have passengers, you have on the supply side, you have bus companies, you have operators. So we can just connect those people together because the market is right, there is supply, there is demand. We just need to put the software that will enable, this scalability of the operation, the system when a person on the desk doesn't have, to spend time in the Excel spreadsheet when somebody cancels the booking or something else. We just save them time. We save like 10 hours, maybe 5 hours a day to every company, right? And they, for example, can reduce their spend by, I don't know, 20 million tons per day. And we just ask for a small cut, like 3 million out of those 20. And 3 million over the 1,000 companies is a nice money. There are more examples that I can share, but yeah, I think we still have time. So another example that I really like is from central London. So energy in UK is really expensive. Like it can cost, I don't know, like during COVID, when the war in Ukraine broke out, the prices went up. It could cost like £300 to warm up a one-bedroom apartment, and £300 is like, I don't know, $400. What's like roughly 9 million. Yeah, 9 million just just to keep the place warm per month. It's not a small money. So there is an initiative to remove old buildings that are not energy efficient and build more energy efficient buildings in the center. And so this is one thing, right? It's an open information. The city government says until 2027 we will bring down a number of buildings and build 7 new skyscrapers that are more energy efficient. So 7 skyscrapers, public information on one side. Then there is a regulation that says that before you start on the construction yard, you need to sign off that you are in good mental state. Just as a worker, you come on the construction site and you sign off. Yeah, I'm not planning to kill myself today. I'm in good mental health. That's just regulation. And now there is a huge flow of people on the construction yard. Some people are coming for a week, some for a month. Not all of them are technically savvy, and there is a queue, right, in the morning to sign on the paper before they can start to work. So some guys knew about the regulation, knew about the plans of the city. They developed a mobile app where the people could sign automatically. And wow, this project will not live for long, but until 2027, there is a solo supplier to 7 skyscraper building companies. That is smart money, something in the reality right now. Connected, to something basically something that we can leverage upon, something that is happening right now, something that we can observe. It's not written anywhere, right? You cannot read about it in the newspaper. You have to connect the dots. You have to see that invisible order to be able to connect the dots. And sometimes it's only possible retrospectively. That's why, and then the reason is because understanding what's happening right now, being focused on the present moment, is really hard, it's really challenging. It requires to be able to admit that I'm wrong, a person is wrong at many times, because assumptions crumble. Reality check is a harsh thing. So, the key point here is that every organization has some kind of a social network, a network through which an information travels inside the organization. And that network is a limiting factor to the amount of complexity that organization can process. So if organization is getting political and information is hidden, or for example, everybody is required to show up at 9 a.m., work until lunch, like 60 minutes for lunch, work until 6, this industrial setting, like dress suits, be everything, like look alike. It doesn't allow for individual to show up, to show their strong skills, right? To be themselves, because every time we have to conform to the some kind of set of rules, we have to step down from our experience of our life to this, to fit in the box. So if your organization's social network doesn't allow you to be yourself, bring all your, speak about your ideas, dress the way you want, basically be yourself, be your whole self. It will limit the amount of complexity it can process, because everybody will say the same thing. Everybody will try to think along the same lines. There will be no broad spectrum of ideas that can circulate inside the company. Right now, we have 2 factors that helps to mitigate the conflict between individual interests and group interests. That is idea that unites us all, the collective resource. Then this ability to be our whole selves, to speak freely, to feel safe about it. And the third one is the compensation. In all of the teal organizations that you would see, there is no limited salary. So there can be agreed a minimal salary, but then a person is not forced to climb the hierarchy to get more money. Basecamp is a prime example. So in Basecamp, if the company earns more than 5% year after year, they will allocate a part of their revenue to distribute across employees. So you don't have, to pretend someone to be a manager. If you like to write software, you don't have to pretend to manager to get more money. You can stay software developer and you can earn more. It's really popular in financial technologies where organizations connect their income to the software developer bonuses. So you helped us to achieve the goal. We earned more money. Here is the bonus. There are organizations that employee own. So let's say 10 developers came together and said, okay, we want to build a software development company. We want to do software development the way we see. And they say, we will just split income 10 shares. And then the idea is that when they hire the next person, they split it over 11 people, over 12, over 15. And that way, they think really hard whom to bring on board, why they're doing it. And there are many different models. If you look for teal organizations or organizations who invented book, there will be 5 or 6 different examples. Every organization described it in that book came up with their own model, how to split revenue. But the case in point is that money has to be split across the people who actually make the money. Otherwise, you can. It's really hard. It's really hard to keep the smart money flow. Hard, to ask for people to concentrate on delivering value, because there will be always back thought. What's in it for me? But when the incentives, the individual contributor incentives are connected to the revenue, people will start to think immediately how we can help the company to earn more.
Skin in the game. Skin in the game.
Yes, exactly. So startups are trying to do that with shares, but shares is not the same thing because they may cost nothing. 7 out of 10 startups fail. So revenue sharing so far is one of the easiest one to implement, and it can be a nice gateway drug to different models. I can give you an example of from the reinventing organizations where basically a guy was earning. They were paying salary to a guy, an energy company. They were paying salary to a guy even though he wasn't doing anything. She just said, okay, I will go and start finding new customers. 3 months, no customers. Fine. The team was all right. He reported to the team, said something. Everybody was, satisfied, cautiously satisfied. And then he said, you know what? I'll take this money you're paying me, and I will go to the Middle East and we'll find a customer over there. And it was like, we are an American company. Like, why are you going there? But no, look, I know what I'm doing. And he basically he looked for an advice of involved parties, but the decision wasn't him. And he went over there, spent 6 months without news. He was still receiving salary. And 6 months after, he basically connected as the prime minister of, I think it was Pakistan. with senior exec from his company, and they made a deal. And I just realized this example is not about the compensation, but the idea holds. The money has to be shared, otherwise it's not going to work. So, on the technical side, we'll start again with this idea of understanding. The idea that we have to understand what's going on. We actually, so our decisions should be well informed by our present needs. And this is where it gets like more technical. A good example of saying that it's not, happening this way is that we structure our code base in the same way. So every business automatization system, and in Elixir and Phoenix, we are mostly doing business automatization. It has three subsystems: generic, support, and core. So generic subsystems are something that every company should have. It's just table stakes, like password reset, account management, billing. You don't earn money on that functionality, but you cannot work without it. Then there is support subsystem. It's something that is specific to a company, but and it cannot be bought. It cannot be bought off the shelf, but it still doesn't earn the money. For example, a map in the ground, right? They have to build it because they cannot use Google Maps because it's inadequate. They have to spend money, but it doesn't earn the money. What earns the money is matchmaking. But still, they have to build it. There is no other way around it. And the core, in Graph's case, which is matchmaking, is the reason why software is being built. It's where we can see the biggest ROI, biggest return on investments. But for some reason, we don't discriminate between those parts of the software when they build them. We just use the same techniques on those parts. Whilst, for example, in password, right, we might not need sophisticated software design. We can just, I don't know, send a direct query. I mean, this is a bad example, but I think you will get the point. We can send direct query to the database, right? Do it in 5 minutes and forget about it. Don't create extra classes, structures, hierarchies. There is no necessity for it. And again, Basecamp shows a really, really interesting approach to software design in that respect. They do what's called architecture by demolition. You may have noticed that there are 4 versions. There were 4 versions of Basecamp. Right now, I think it's version 4 is being developed, and the main version is version 3. So it's basically v3.basecamp.com. And what they're doing, they're saying, okay, we, like in a 2 years time, our code base will be a mess. But you know what? We don't care. We will take everything that we see usable and valuable, and we will do Rails new, and we copy the valuable part, and everything else stays there. We will just, re-implement the application with the valuable parts, and things that makes us struggle, we will just rewrite them. And then they keep the old version just on the security updates and help customers to migrate to the next version. And then after some period, they sunset it. And then they take what was valuable in version 2 and copy to version 3. And they destroy version 1 and keep version 2 in production. So they don't even strive to build software that will last forever, a single code base that will last forever. They focus on business, they focus on money, they focus on revenue, and they don't care that much about the quality of the code. And that's their unique approach to software design. That's the power of acting according to the situation, to the skills you have in the team, and to the way you want to develop software. Anybody heard about a cargo cult? Cargo cult. So cargo cult is a phenomenon. It originated in ocean islands. Like there was an island in Oceania with people who never met modern civilization, like real tribal people. They were never contacted with modern people. Like they are living literally like they were living 10,000 years ago, and there was unfortunate environmental conditions where their life was threatened. So generous people decided to airdrop food from the airplane, and that happened a couple of times. And what they observed is that later on, when they wanted to check on how they are doing, is that those people, they didn't understand about airplanes, nothing, right? It's like just so far away, like light years away. So what they did, they started to simulate airplanes. So they arranged it in a group that looked like airplane shape, and they simulated the flight of an airplane to connect with this manifestation of the God's will that dropped them food. They were basically summoning airplanes by simulating them. They created a cult, a cargo cult, right? A cult for an airplane that will drop cargo on them. So it means cargo cult means simulating something, because it gave you some benefit in the past without understanding the essence of what is happening. Many software development practices like Agile, to a certain respect, DDD, software design, we are just copying them in our organizations without really understanding and being critical towards, do we need them? Do they help us to build software? Is this something that helps us to unlock smart money? Is this something that helps us to work together better? Okay, company next door does it. We will do it as well. But what if we will stop having morning meetings, morning stand-ups? How it will affect our company? How if we will, stop having demos, whatever rituals we have? Like, does it help or does it not? So Basecamp was very smart and a good example in managing their compensation, in structuring their product workflow. They have they published the book on how they build product. It's called Shape Up. So everything in Basecamp is tailored to their team, to their specific needs. That's how this, they have 8 years of retention for software developers, which is really high on the market. And they're building software for millions of people, millions of customers, paid customers, not free customers. This is with a small team of 20-something people. But for the rest of us, and I forgot to include the link. I'm on vacation, so I'm a bit lax. So this is from learning domain-driven design. This schema allows to reason how to, basically a mental framework to structure software according to the complexity we want to process. So, starting with they call it subdomain type, subsystem type. It's basically the same. Is it something for supporting or generating? Like, does it earn us money? Is it complex data structure? No. Transaction script means select from just do it quick, make it work, forget about it, move on. Then maybe we shouldn't be speaking about architectural patterns because it will take a lot of time. If it's a bit more complex, if for example you have data and logic together, right? A user should be able to change their password, and when they're changing their password, the new password and the password confirmation should match, right? So we have a bit of a logic here. We can bit of a logic alongside the data. We can use active record to structure the data access and the logic together. Then, if it's a course of domain, we can, and it doesn't involve monetary transactions, analysis, or basically there is no dimension of time. You know, it's just happened and that's it. There is no a long running process that goes through multiple state transformations. We can use domain model. Domain model basically says that the idea is that you decouple the way data represented in database is from the representation of the data in your code base. Because relational model, the two-dimensional structure, doesn't really map on the object-oriented model. So there is this impedance mismatch. And if you try to stick really complex logic to be compatible with your persistence model, it will get convoluted and it's not a pleasant experience after a couple of years of development. I'm sure that every one of you saw 1,000 lines long active record model that had a complex logic, complex methods, methods that had to cater for 3 or 4 different contexts in which they have to be used just because it was easier to put them in the user model because it's closer to the data, to the persistence. We'll briefly look into how to structure domain model without really diving deep into it. Just really scratch the surface. And event source domain model, it's the most complex one. Should be used really sparingly. And the usage, its usage should be justified. But it's the most interesting. It's a really cool. It's like an ice cream. Ice cream, I don't know, is a cherry. So the idea is that instead of saving snapshot of current state, you save a thing that that will lead you to the current state, like a bank account. You open bank account and you see, okay, salary 100 mil, food minus 50,000. So next day, when you open up and you see that you have like 10 mil, you don't call, and you call in the bank, they say, okay, machine says no. It's like 50 mil, we don't know what happened. No, they have a sequence of transactions that when you combine together, you have the current balance. So for example, and that's what's happening with the event sourced model. You save event after event after event, and that's on the right side. And then you have a full audit log of what happened, what have happened. You can go into the storage and see the exact sequence of events that lead to the current state. And then it works like PubSub, like a message broker. On the other side, you will have listeners, like background jobs, that are listening to those events and then combining them into the current state. So, for example, if I want to take a loan and I apply for a loan and I send a request, the first event would be loan request received, right? And then on the read side, a listener would create a data entry in the database table, maybe through the active record. Okay, the loan was created. So when I load the application doesn't have to combine all events every time. It's basically like a cache. And then on the right, we'll open dashboard, look at my credit history, it says, and we'll say, accept loan. So a new event will be published, loan granted, for example. And then on the read side, the listener will listen to that event and find that record about a specific loan and update the status. So it's like a combination of two models, really. On the right side, we have just stream of events, and on the read side, where we want to query the data, we have a projection that tells us the current state. And this model is exclusive. It's like all financial systems are built on event sourced systems. I mean, all mature systems built on the event sourced models, or they painstakingly trying to simulate them. And the reason why it's not very popular or very well known is because building event sourced applications required like decades of distributed systems experience. Up until 6 to 7 years ago, when London-based company released a product called Event Store TV that made event sourcing approachable to small teams. Because before that, it was mostly for banks who could pay large salaries to the distributed systems engineers who would build event stores for them. So the title here is wrong. So domain model. Domain model basically built on top of four different technical patterns. The first is an application service. Application service is an entry point in the application. It's a coordination point, right? You have in MVC paradigm, we have model, view, and controller. And the purpose of controller is to decouple view from a model. So that, for example, we have a single controller action can be triggered by multiple buttons, right? That's the point. And then for a simple subsystems like transaction script or when we use transaction script or active record, we can just put our business logic in controller because it's not supposed to be large. It's supposed to be small and well contained. But for really complex parts of the application where we have to coordinate or orchestrate actually interaction between multiple different entities, we can have an application service that will be that won't have any business logic or just coordinate behavior of other objects. And it basically uses those three different patterns to interacts with those three different patterns. So entity object something is something that has an ID. Basically, if you have a person class, that person may have a passport ID, and that would uniquely identify that specific person. Then we have value object. Value object is an object or a struct in Elixir terms, which value is its own ID. And address is an example, right? So if you have two instances of a person class that says, I don't know, Jack Miller, right? Those might be two different people because their passports would be different. But if you have two addresses, two same addresses, those are two same addresses, they are matched by their value. And domain service is an interesting piece. It's a pattern that can be used to coordinate a complex calculation or transformation or recomposition of an object from one shape into another. Basically, if you have a complex calculation that involves multiple different objects and that doesn't belong to any of those, you can use domain service. A good example is transferring money from one account to another. So on account class you have deposit and withdraw, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to have account.transfer to, right? Because it's not account's responsibility to transfer money. You can have account manager or transfer manager that would take two accounts and transfer and coordinate the money transfer between them. And the interesting and complex part here, right, is how do you understand what goes where? So this is the definition of domain service. When the significant process of or transformation in the domain is not the natural responsibility of an entity or value object, added operation to the model as a standalone interface declared as service. So how do you know if that operation belongs to something or doesn't belong to something? It goes back to this idea of invisible order that governs processes in organization and in the market. In order to build good software, you need to understand that invisible order that goes through the market into the organization. Because as soon as you can feel it, you can reason, aha, so this is what is happening. And then your mental model, the way you think about your software and design your software, will match to how people who are paying you money thinking about the software. And when they will have a new idea and will ask you to implement that idea, your software design will be quite a bit close to how they think and how, and it will be easier to change. And that's why a lot of domain-driven design initiatives are falling apart. I think 5 or 6 years ago, it was a big topic in both Elixir and Ruby on Rails communities, at least in my bubble. Like, let's transfer to domain-driven design. And then a company would hire coaches, pay a generous amount of money, let's say 20K in pounds, for to coach developers on a 3-day workshop, and then those coaches would go away and nothing happens. And the reason why that doesn't happen is because developers doesn't have the information, doesn't have access to the information they need to have to build that software, to build software in that way. They are disconnected from the market, they are disconnected from customers, they are disconnected from revenue. They don't know how company earns money, how they can reason about what customers want. Therefore, they cannot model complex domains in a way that would reflect how customers think about them. And that's why after a couple of years, the velocity goes down and nobody cannot do anything about it. There is a good saying in Ukrainian language: you cannot make a woman give a baby even if in 3 months, even if you involve 3 men. So even if you like bring more developers, put more money on it, like, you cannot force it, because that's because the organization is on the lower evolutionary ladder. It cannot step up to give to mitigate the conflict between individual interests and group interests, and give developers access to the information they need in order to model the complex software or upskill them, right? Allocate, let's say, half a Friday to reading books, pair programming, developing just hard skills. I seldomly worked in a company that had a study pass, like mandatory for software developers, where developers would read books, practice exercises that would be supervised by their lead team leads, and then once in 2 weeks, the team will come together and pair on a solution, solving a problem, a software design kata, to practice their skills. And just think about it. In most of the profession, in sports, right? You don't all sportsmen. They don't just play all the time. They have a lot of practice, and they play once a week. In software development, we always play, but we don't practice. We don't improve our skills. So those 4 skills: individual resource, individual skills, collective, individual resource, individual power, collective power, and collective resource. That's a model that helps me to reason about organization design. And every single one of us who would like to write good software and become a valuable professional will have to, at some point, start reasoning about the organization design. and how organization design affects our ability to build software. And leadership is not a position; it's something that you can do. If you just start observing what's happening, at some point you may have an idea that would earn the company a lot of money. A team lead on my previous one of my previous jobs. He spotted a feature that was for a year in the backlog, and he negotiated with product manager to take that feature in the sprint. So it was 1 year in the backlog. We completed it over one sprint deploy, and it earned 200,000 euros over the first weekend, and kept earning money just because he understood the nature of the business. A developer in my team, prototyper and editor. Yes, short time?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was already to say that, but could you try to wrap up in a couple of minutes?
Yeah. So I will just skip a demo. I will skip the demo to show the structure of the applications that features multiple different models. And in closing, I just can say that God gave us 2 ears when we were kids. That was to listen to one ear to listen to our mom, another to listen to our dad. When we are in our professional environment, one ear is to listen to our manager, another is to listen to our customers. So, and then we have a certain side of our head to think for ourselves. And I wish you a pleasant professional journey, and I hope this was useful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your sharing. It's very enthusiastic. So, as it's quite late now, so I think our next speaker has 2 options. Either you can raise your hand to choose the option. He would like to propose, like, if you want to have the tea break first and then try the next talk, or you want to just have the tea break and we can save the next talk for the next event. So you can raise your hand if you choose the first option.
So the first option is we have the break and then we have the
Yes.
talk.
Yes.
And the second option is we have the break and we don't have the talk.
Yes.
No, actually we still have the talk for the next.
Yes.
Don't
know.
Second option.
Yeah, in favor of second, everyone.
Okay. So let's enjoy the tea break. Yeah, thank you so much for the talk. Yeah.
I apologize for taking so long because
No problem. Yeah, I would like to see your demo as well. Yeah, but
actually it's very exciting and happens. We enjoy the talk, so I think it really worth the time. So really appreciate that.